Wait, I think I fixed it. Someone on YouTube, can you confirm that you can hear me now? I think it should be working. And then Arky or Dylan, can one of you talk real quick and so they can confirm that they can hear you as well?
Hello.
Okay, so whoever's on YouTube or someone's watching it, can y'all tell me if that is working now? Okay, perfect. I don't know who Mojo is, but thanks on the YouTube side. Appreciate it. Okay, yeah, so whoa, is my screen lagging? Give me a second here. I got the I got the mobile view. I do not want that. These heat maps. Oh, that's why I was showing like that. All right, yeah, I knew something was up. All right, yeah, so this should be fixed. Yeah, so I'm gonna do. I haven't done one of these in a while, but I'm basically just gonna be going through most of the tickers that I looked through. Um, so I'm gonna be flicking through these maps pretty quickly. And then basically any map that I find interesting, I'll then pull up the chart and take a closer look at it and sort of print what my thoughts are there. So I can do that for the first maybe 40 minutes. I'll try to be quick there. And then what we can do for the remaining time is say, I'll just take either any questions from y'all. Oh man, I'm a bot. Any questions from y'all or any requests for other tickers to be charted because, the way I sort through them is a bit rapid. So then I do miss quite a few things. So then I also like to see some of the stuff that some of y'all are looking at. Um, and then what I'll end up doing is most of the stuff I find that is of interest, I'll star it and I'll send it out on Twitter or in Swing Ideas. I'll also post it there. Can you forward me YouTube? Yeah, Jewel, I got you. All right. Um, so in that case, I'll start sort of just working through them. Uh, okay, someone tell Fahadi that we're in the stage, not the general voice chat. I think he noticed. Okay, let me see here. Oh, it's on YouTube. PRZ. Yeah, so favorite sector. So I don't do. Let me see. What are these things? What are these stickers? Oh, they're not on my list. So these sector rotation ones, what I'd recommend if you're trying to get like a general feel for what's going on there is go over, what is it, X? What are these sector ones called? Yeah, like XLU. So what I'd recommend is you go over here toward these sector tickers like XLB, XLU, and a lot of these. I don't remember which one is correlated to which, but a lot of times you can get a good macro sense. Um, Not macro sense, but a good sense of at least currently what are the strong sectors if you look through some of these maps and just look for good setups for the whole sector. And then what you want to do is, you know, for whatever sector that looks strong or that looks very weak, try to find a few of the larger volume names within that sector, and then take a look at, which ones have the best setups out of those. So like, let me see, quickly flicking through these. XLC looks okay. XLE, I wouldn't do much there. XLI looks a bit bullish. Huh. XLK, I wouldn't say much here. XLP looks a bit bearish at the moment, at least 2 weeks out. That's the other thing, right? Like, of course, just because we have low nodes 2 weeks out, that doesn't always mean that it's something that's actionable right now. So for these plays, whether it's a sector or whether it's just a ticker in general, if you're targeting nodes further out and you're not seeing good floors or ceilings this week or next week, um, make sure you're using a strong you're able to find a strong argument on the chart to validate that thesis, right? So make sure you're not just solely chasing any of these isolated nodes. And you tend to see those a lot on these sector ETFs. So that's why I put be cautious with those. So for XL, what is XLRE? Is this actually a sector or is this just a ticker? Real estate. Okay, so the real estate sector looks quite interesting. If you look at GEX and VEX, these are monthly expirations, but we're sort of at top of range right now on GEX, and then looking into January, we do look we do have quite a bit of volume downside. So I'd keep an eye on that. What I keep an eye on is if these 43 nodes grow further or not. Um, but yeah, let me see. So apart from that, I don't. XLV also has pretty decent downside for this week. Oh, NexoM is okay. These are just tickers. Yeah. So to your question, PRZ. What did you want to look at? XLP. Fuck. 1 second. Yeah. So yeah, to your point, XLP has pretty good downside. But again, it's 2 weeks out, so make sure if you're taking a trade based off that we're finding some good argument on the chart, right? So for example, here on XLP, we have a pretty good support level that held twice at around 72 point or 79.3. It looks like it's now holding as a resistance. So, this is pretty good argument if we're gonna hold this level and push further down. Yeah, I don't mind that one. I don't know what sector this is. Consumer staples. Yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't mind a bit of a downside bias on consumer staples, but I typically, I'll be honest, I typically don't look too much through those sector ETFs, and I more so look at tickers on an individual basis. But everyone that approach is perfectly valid. You're trying to get a more macro sense before picking out some of the stronger tickers within those, or weaker in the case of XLP. Okay, Noah, am I looking at Gamma or Vanna? So I look at both. The Gamma is going to give you more insights on the entries. And for these 1 week plays, even 2 weeks, you can stretch it, and the Gamma will still give you a lot of good information there. The Vanna maps, so the VEX, you're really looking, those are going to give you a bit more insights into your overall bias or your targets. And if you're someone who takes plays that are more on the month time frame, 2 months or a bit further out, you're really going to want to look at the Vanna and you're trying to find stair stepping patterns. So I'll try to find one as I look through these and I'll point those out as like good setups that you're looking for on the Vanna side. And that can also be applicable if you trade shares, for example, or leaps even, where, obviously for those very long term plays, you're going to want to use your general, charting and price action or your general TA to drive the like overall bias. But by using these Vanna maps, you can enter at a spot where you get a very, very advantageous move within that first month, right? And so that can be a huge boost, right? If whether it's shares or leaps, if we're able to enter at a spot where we know it should pop upwards or drop pretty quickly, why not get that better entry where we're getting quickly into the profits and then we can, you know, long hold from there. Okay. Okay. Yep. So I'll check CRM. I don't recommend playing um earnings though. So I mean, I'll check it. I'll give my view, but earnings tends to be very all over the place. So I wouldn't put too much stock on it. All right. So I think Apple was viable at the end of last week and early this week. I think it ran Monday pretty hard out the gate, so you would have had to get in Thursday, Friday. But Apple's a pretty good example of like when we're seeing the staircasing, right? Because oh, I can't draw on the screen, but yeah, I guess you can visualize, right? Where we have 280 this week as our floor. Next week we have a good 290 target, and the week after we're going up to 305. So this kind of stair stepping that you're seeing on the VEX is those are the kind of patterns you want to look for if you're doing some of these longer dated plays. Is this recorded? Yes, Mike. Um, okay, EMS, to your question of, OPEX nodes, obviously they a lot of times will look quite ambitious or a bit far out. So when do we know to trust them or not? If they're isolated, I tend not to trust them. But the reason, for example, Apple looks a bit more viable is if you look at the weeks leading into OPEX, right? So if OPEX is December 19th, if we look at the December 12th expiration and we're seeing good volume at 290, and even for this week, we have volume at 285, 290. So it's consistently pushing upwards. That allows us to, it gives a bit more validity to those OPEX nodes because it's showing us that there's consistently higher dealer positioning starting now, going into next week, and into OPEX week, right? So if I see that ramp up leading to that OPEX node, I trust it a lot more than if I just had an isolated node 30 points up on OPEX with nothing else leading up into it. So both plays can work out, but I would say the success rate when we see nodes leading into that is much higher. Um, okay, so hopefully that answered that question, EMS. Yeah, Josh. So Apple's definitely not a play you can take anymore. But my point is probably at the end of last week, when we're seeing this 280 node as our floor going into this week, 290 probably had some decent volume or 285. So it did have that staircase pattern at the end of last week. Obviously, Apple already ran $10, so please don't, please don't play it. But this was like going back would be probably a pretty good case study of like, all right, going into end of week last week, we had a bit of consolidation for 2 3 days, and then we got a nice push upwards. And this map is pretty good stair step pattern. Um, what tickers do I have the most conviction, up or down? Carlos, I'm not sure. That's yeah. I guess as I go through and chart, I'll send out the ones that I like the most. Good minimum volume to pay attention to. Yeah, Sean. So when we're looking at GEX, so it depends on GEX and VEX, right? The general rule of thumb is on GEX, you want to be looking for tickers that at least have 4 digits. So technically it's 1 million, but if you're just reading the numbers that are on the map, it's 1,000. But obviously we have the K at the end. So the general rule of thumb is that for GEX, you're looking for 4 digits, and on VEX, you're looking for 5 digits, so at least 10,000. Um, Obviously, that depends on what ticker you're looking at, right? Apple gets a ton more volume, so a $1,000 note on Apple is not going to show up at all. So also, it's relative to the overall volume that that ticker gets on that heat map. Um, so also make sure it's like you can use the 1,000 and 10,000 numbers as a lower limit, but um, on the upper side, like for any maps that have much higher volume, make sure you're using a relative, right? So you're using your king node and also any nodes that are within 20 to 25% of that large volume. Not within, any nodes that are 20 to 25% of that value, um, or higher.
Could I add something?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you can add stuff whenever you want.
Yeah, I think if we want to talk about that Apple example, because I've been longing it for quite some time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Another thing that I look for is not just just leave that open real quick. Just not just like the yellow nodes like you're talking about in notational value, and I call it the gap, air gap, or stack method, right? So if you look for clusters of values to become closer to the yellow node, it builds the mini stair step before the stair step goes to the next week. What do I mean by that? I mean, usually buyers step in or they try to start stacking in 1 week at a time, and then they move to the following week and the following week and the following week when they start rolling as the stock starts moving in their favor, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
Apple's at 280, they're not going to stair step 3 weeks out to 300 until they start to see price movement to 285, 282, whatever, right? So if you follow that logic and start to see the sequential building of 2 to 3 strikes at a time, a little by little up,
Mm-hmm.
then you see the stair step develop before it really develops and pops out at you, and then the chase begins, right? So like what ask yourself, if you're a trader, right, and you're at 280, why would you buy a contract $20 out the money with a 28 delta, unless you have already locked something in up on the way,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, just something you can watch and think about when you see the graphs develop.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, that's something I'll start looking out for more.
Yeah, and
Okay.
if we want to stay on this example for now, like what I'm still longing Apple, what I'm looking for now, if you just look at month of December, I want to see the 290 2.5 on 1219, the 295 and the 297 cluster all flip consecutively positive together. This will tell me that when we start to approach the 290, the traders that are in those calls right now slash short for this week and next week will roll out and get in and pile into the 19, 26, and 2, continuing the trend up for another 3 weeks, right? Because as you start to approach
Mm-hmm.
those levels, it will force them out or roll the folks that are long, right? So that's what I'm looking for now to stay more long.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Arky.
Yeah.
PRZ. PRZ, are you watching on YouTube and Discord? How are you? You're dropping comments on both sides. Okay. Yeah, so we can look through a few of these. I think someone asked for a firm. Yeah, so a firm, a firm. Let me see here. So a firm, if we drop to a bit of lower time frame, I know Jewel has mentioned this, and the setup, I think even last week people were mentioning it. We at the time had a strong level at 70, um, and a very strong level up at 80, right? And I think if we show Vex, this will show it even stronger. Yeah, so the key thing here is that even when we see good floors and good ceilings, right, we still have to apply our general price action rules ahead of that, right? So when we play these bounces off of a floor, or if we play rejection off of a ceiling, the first and second bounces are always going to be our higher probability times where the trade will likely go in our favor. And so if you look at a firm, I think last Friday it bounced once, and I think Monday at open it bounced off 70 as well. So if you took either the first or second bounce, I think either of those probably paid 40, 50%. And then I think as well today we hit 70, bounced off it again, and probably hit at least 50% there. The key point here is when we dropped later in the day today and we came and retested 70 again, this is now, we're on our, let me see here. We're on our one, two, three, we're like on our fourth test of the level, right? So when we're seeing, we still have to, have that in the back of our mind is the first and second taps are always going to give a higher probability of that bounce. Once we start tapping third, fourth, and further, there's going to be a higher risk of breaking through that level, right? And that's exactly what happened here, right? Is we tapped 70 for the fourth time on a firm, broke through, retested, and then just dropped, right? And we fell through. We lost that floor, in a sense. So currently, I don't know if I'd be too interested in a firm, just because we did just lose that level. So a lot of times, what will happen there is this $80 node is it has already lost a lot of volume. Actually, I think I don't remember what it was at, or I think it was around 40 million at some point, either today, earlier, or yesterday. So we've already lost a ton of volume there. So we have to give it a bit of time as well to see where is some of that volume pushing towards, where is the repositioning happening, right? Because we know a ton of positions, they've been exiting a lot of these positions at the higher node at 80. So we have to give it a bit of time to see where is that volume, then what kind of positions are being taken and where, and then that will help guide us into the rest of the week. So yeah, firm, I wouldn't look too close at it going forward, but so you can, come back to your chart and start saying where are in the future where these cases, if we continue to fall, where can we then find a new support, right? Um, and obviously sometimes you'll see that on the GEX map, sometimes it'll come from the chart. Typically the VEX won't show those for these rapid moves that are happening, like we just fell through today. The GEX is gonna give you those support levels a lot sooner than the VEX, just because it tends to shuffle a lot quicker, and it sort of quote unquote catches up to these moves a bit, or catches up to price a bit sooner. So yeah, looking at the chart, yeah, I guess to Kuan Yu's point, right, we have a pretty good level here around 66. And then we look further back. Yeah, and at 65, actually, we've had some pretty strong reactions in the past. Um, so yeah, Kuan Yu completely agree. That 65, 66 level holds pretty good potential based on the chart. So we already have that sort of that thesis in the back of our mind. If we're able to see something to support that on the heat maps, that sort of strengthens our conviction and gives us a stronger thesis from throwing that for dropping that for taking a play there to upside. Josh, yeah, it probably also is a fib level. You're right. Yeah, so 6065 is approaching our golden pocket. So yeah, whether you're trading just chart level support resistance, whether you're taking fib levels, there seem to be a few confluences matching around the 65 level. And yeah, so what would really, we already have a couple confluences there off the chart. And then if we're able to see some strong nodes show up there on the heat maps, then that will just give us an additional confluence there. Uh, PRZ, we're at an area where price first displaced to the upside on Tuesday. Slope liquidity. Okay, yeah, PRZ, I see what you're saying. So, you're saying if we hit sort of this lower wick here where we got that initial push upwards, sweep some liquidity there, and then push higher. Yeah, so I guess the point here is a lot of times, regardless of which method you use, right? Whether it's fib, support resistance, liquidity levels, like a lot of times the strongest plays will have a lot of these line up. So when you start to see a lot of these different methods align, it gives you a pretty good thesis overall. Um, and same with the heat maps, right? The heat maps at the end of the day is an additional confluence to whatever thesis you are already looking at. Okay, let me see. So that was a firm. Yeah, let me catch up with the chat. I know there's a few other tickers. Noise, I would have to backtest that and I'll just PM me a reminder. I can look into that and send it to you for your question about if we're able to see. I don't want to get into backtesting too much. I want to keep it to setups for the upcoming week. Firm, what else? Oh, Loon's in here. How's it going? Yeah, so PDD. And Brian on YouTube, SPX. There's not much point in charting right now because a lot of those nodes, the heat maps themselves, they fluctuate so much intraday that it's not worth too much effort diving into because a lot of times stuff you look at, um, it's not invalid the next day, but the nodes will reshuffle a lot. So you can still chart your support resistance, of course. I can do that if you want. But like our overall thesis is pretty hard to establish until we see what happens going into the next day. Okay, so yeah, PDD. Let me see here. So PDD, I'm curious if post earnings, I think a lot of these OPEX positions are likely taking pre-earnings. Now that we've dropped a lot, I don't know how much to trust some of these nodes. So for example, this 138 node for next week. So actually this one I will take a look at the replay. Because if this is something that's just been tailing off, oh, it actually looks like it's been growing. Oh, that's super interesting. Okay, so it's growing yesterday, and then we look at last week. Okay, so it's actually been pretty consistent on the VEX, that node that is showing on PDD. Interesting. Okay, regardless of that, I'm trying to see where we can get a support resistance flip. So we do have a nice level here, around 120. What? My mouse is lagging. Holy. Okay, around 120. It has great or decent volume. on the GEX as well. So what I'd probably be looking for here is, can we claim that level, um, push above, and then use it sort of as a retest. And if you have looked through some of the documentation, this pattern, this is sort of like the inverse rug pull. I don't know if it has a name, but if we're able to lose some of this lower volume, we claim above these levels, and we can keep that purple stacked over yellow, then that will sort of give us that springboard setup that we can use along with our target next week upside, right? So again, don't assume that we're going to jump all the way back and reclaim all this drop off from earnings, but it gives us a strong bias upwards. If you're buying contracts that are um, of healthy delta, it'll be a bit closer to the money, and that should be, if we get that move, it should be pretty healthy overall. Uh, yeah, Kancha, we already did talk about a firm. Oh, no, actually, no, we didn't. Actually, yeah, I did. Um,
Yeah, I don't
okay,
I don't like this chart at all, especially with data. I'm not even touching this at all, to be honest.
yeah, okay. Uh, Let me see. BE. Yeah, so what I'll say is a lot of times when we get these hard reshufflings after earnings, or these hard moves after earnings, the maps can take a bit of time to reshuffle too. So there's a bit of uncertainty. So be cautious whenever we're having like any steep drop offs and you're trying to play a reverse off of those, especially post earnings or post OPEX or whatever. If there's a major catalyst, just be careful there. Okay, uh, BE. Yeah, I think I looked at BE yesterday. I don't have much of an opinion here at all. So like we did have this support resistance flip at around 88, 90. Um, we held that level pretty well over Thanksgiving week. Um, Looking at the map, like there's just not much information here at all. Like I know we have a node at 97 and 118 roughly. But other than that, like I know we have these OPEX nodes that are like crazy high, right? Um, and I'm guessing those positions got, let me think here. Yeah, so those positions were likely taken after last OPEX. So when we were trading, still $20 higher than where we are now. Um, so I think the main issue here, I guess the reason I'm hesitant, I'm not saying this move can't happen, but the reason I hesitate is because I'm not seeing much positioning upwards leading into these higher nodes for OPEX, right? So I would, at least personally, I would like to see more volume on this 12-12 week. We have a bit of volume at 118 for this week. But again, and I've seen BE be quite a volatile stock, so I tend to want to be trading off of strong levels on it, because a lot of these weaker levels, they may hold, they may not, but I tend to have less confidence in them for something like this. So, Arky, I don't know if you have a different view here.
So my only trade on this is because I left this trade around 129 actually before earnings actually happened. And I've been waiting
Okay.
for a pullbacks. So now actually my only trade here would be to attempt a long at 101.99 into 12.19 if that holds. And the reason is because of so it's not just the yellow node stack on 12.19. If you look to the left, you're at 100 on the JEX. Sorry, if you look on the JEX chart,
Oh, mm-hmm.
12.5, 12.12, 12.19,
Oh, you're saying off
12.26.
this floor. Got you.
Yeah, so you've got
Okay.
4 weeks in a row, 3 week, one strong, all positive at 100, which tells me that 4 weeks of buyers are sitting at the same level,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if it retraces down, right, and I talk about this, right? If y'all follow my logic, that positive node tells you call buyers or positive call, bulls are winning, however you want to read that, right? So if you see a retracement in BE and you see 12.19 and 12.12 contracts hold their value and gain, I would play a reversion bounce off 101.99 on BE with a cut below 97 back to 110. If you see that reduced, then that is a bigger sign for a short and more pain trade, and that's because now that envelope of buyers are going to flip offside, and they're going to have to cause a severe chase down because if you look at the positioning, there's no one on the put side to fight them, right? So when a market maker
Right.
has an influx of all these buyers suddenly exiting, he doesn't have a seller or someone else on the other side of the table to sell it to, right? So he's just going to follow the trade, right? Because there's no buyers sitting at the table below him willing to take his bet. So the sell pressure will continue down to 95, 90, and et cetera, et cetera. So that is my trade for BE. Attempt to long off 101.99, short, cut, let it die to wherever it wants to go.
Got it.
There upside from here is non-existent.
Okay.
If y'all follow that logic, let me know. If not, happy to re-explain.
Uh, okay. Thanks. Okay. So that was BE. What's the next app? Yeah, this is. Uh, Give me a
I've
second,
exited
y'all.
my long side on this. Yeah.
Let me get a sheet of paper because I'm not keeping up with this chat. So I wanna let me just write down all the tickers, and then that way I can actually keep up with what we're reading and all the questions. So Etsy, BEA firm, Amazon, Nike, and UNH. Kid Gordon. So Wayne, if you look historically, Win has a ton of pretty far out nodes. I've seen some of them hit, I've seen some of them not. So I'll double check the map, but I would just take it with a grain of salt, or just size a bit smaller, a bit safer there, if you're gonna play something on Win. But I know Win tends to have a lot of far out nodes. It doesn't always have floors though, so that'd be my main thing to watch out for. Okay, yeah, so I'm trying to go in order. So I'll get to all the tickers, just they may be delayed. Oh, I already had pulled up app. Okay, let me see here. So app, what is this? App Lovin'? Yep. So no, Amazon I haven't gotten to. I'm gonna get to it. Holy, there's more people in this chat than usual. UPST. All right. So yeah, for AppLovin, let me see. At least based on the chart, we do have a bit of a level here, where we've rejected a couple times in the past. This roughly aligns with the 675 node, actually. So let me see. Yeah. So we have a bit of a. I guess the thing to note with these is these are actually ranges, right? Like these nodes are not always just to the tick. So a lot of times when I'm charting, it's probably a bit more accurate if I actually draw zones. So yeah, the 675 zone is covering, these previous 1, 2, 3, 4 rejections, right? And now as we're pushing, let me see on app. So on app, we just rejected from that today. So honestly, app was a pretty good play. Oh damn! I wish I would have seen this. So
Yeah,
app on six,
I
yeah,
exited out at 645. So
645. You were playing calls previously?
yeah, at 610.
Oh, okay. So you've been in this, oh, since Friday, I guess.
Yeah. I
Gotcha.
think this trade is done.
Yeah. So if you're in calls, we obviously got a huge move up. We hit pretty strong resistance at 675. If you look at the chart, this is also like a very large previous resistance from, what is this, early in November, and then going all the way back to September. So actually, if not in calls, I don't know what Arky, like I don't know what this map looked like last week, so I don't know what Arky played. But you could have also taken this trade today if you're playing the rejection off 675. Like we do have strong volume there. It lines up with a strong level on the chart, so that play today would have been pretty valid. I didn't
Mhm.
scan last night, but so I had no idea on this. Loon, so you exited calls, but you wanted to see if it continues because we're flagging. Um, I would say just I would leave it as it is, right? Like if you already caught some of this move upwards, whether we flag and leg up again, the the strong move you already caught, so I wouldn't be too worried about trying to catch anything afterwards. Um, of course, we can see if this king node tails off or if it stays strong throughout the rest of the week. But the point here is, right, like if we ran up 540, we ran up more than $100 past week. Um, a lot of times when we get these large expansions, honestly, more than 100, right? We ran from 490 to 680, right? In the space of, uh, was this Friday before Thanksgiving? Yeah. So from Friday before Thanksgiving to now, ran up a huge amount, right? So a lot of times when we get these large expansions, we typically get some longer periods of consolidation, right? So even if it continues running, the conservative mindset there would be all right. We already rolled up. We hit a very strong resistance zone. So let's just let this settle for a bit. Three. So if we come in tomorrow and see it's a king node. So there's always a chance that we go revisit the king node, but the probability there is a lot lower, right? Um, and what I always tell people is like if the move has already had right, this thing already ran more than $100. If you're still trying to squeeze out another $30, $20 at the end, you're sometimes being a bit ambitious or a bit greedy on that side, right? So you're much better served with your time. Go find another ticker that hasn't reversed yet or is waiting to reverse to the downside and try to find a play there that is you're not really chasing here, but this is a move that is getting close to exhaustion and you're really trying to catch that tail end. Much better to see where you can find a trade where you're catching that initial flip. Um, and that'll be to your benefit. Okay, so that was app. Backtrack to the Friday. Yeah, I'll show the Friday map, but in general, I guess I'm not trying to go into like too many trade breakdowns just because if I start breaking down each trade possible, this is going to take, I could sit here 5 hours and do that. So I guess I'm not sure
It'd be
who I
fun
see.
5 hours though.
It'd be fun. I just can't today, but in the future, I'm willing to.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Uh,
my reasoning for entering 610 on APP was purple yellow yellow stack as you can see, right? 585,
Here.
590 and then
Okay.
602, right? So I I wait for confirmation, which on a stock like that cuz it moves $30 a candle as you can see, it's usually $15 for me. So the 590 595 area was a $15 wait and break and hold. 610 long, get out around 640 645, which was a morning pump. Went to 675, which was your node, retraced back. Still sitting there. All that tells me is not all the call buyers took their profits. Some guys still want more, whatever. For me, market maker's already hedged off that exposure so that he doesn't care. So for me, the trade is done and moved on.
Okay. Thanks, Arky. Okay, so that's app. Let me see. Okay, someone asked for Etsy.
Yeah, well, we can talk about UPST when you get to it.
Uh, let's just talk about it now.
Yeah, I was trying to answer
If
the guy's question in
yeah,
chat.
if it's on your mind, just let's tackle it now. Because
Kwanyo.
I have a long list. Okay. Yeah, Kwan Yu, let me open up this image. Uh,
So his question was breaking 45 goes to 50. That was his question on UPST. And I personally don't agree with that assessment. So I'll explain why I don't, and you can explain why you might. It's only because you look above 45, right? And if you see the 46 and a half, 47, and 48, if you add those notational values on the short side, about negative 120,000, and longs is only about 45K. So shorts are still winning 2.5 to 1. Even if you break 45, that's still 2.5x pressure above you before you even try to go to 50. right? So you're still fighting a bigger barrier and another barrier and another barrier to try to go to 50. So for me, that trade that's non-existent for me. That's more of a short side exposure. Like I'd rather short in that area than try to long on top of the 45s that are sitting there at 12.19. A long trade idea would be finally breaking out of the 50 zone. The reason being is because if you add everyone who's been sitting below and apply the same swing theory to app, or sorry, BE, you now have all shorts offside and no one willing to reshort. So now you have a big flip onto call side exposure, right? So you break that bigger 50 area, and as Nico pulls up the long-term chart, you probably go back into the last time it broke down. Uh, because I don't draw charts, but I'll leave that to him. So there we go. You see that? Yeah, yeah, you can tell 60, 70. So that'd be that's why I actually am not bullish until that level breaks.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I think Kuan Yu, I'm not. What I'll say is I see the argument for 45 to 50 if we're 2 weeks in the future, right? And we're only looking at 12.19 onwards. But that's a completely different scenario to what we have now, right? So I think a lot of times you can guide your bias a bit based on these future nodes, but just be cautious because the more time you introduce any plays you take now, you can take a bigger hit due to theta decay. There's more time for reshuffling to occur. So if you're ever seeing nodes a couple weeks in the future, 3 weeks in the future that you think are a good setup, a lot of times it's just better to wait, make sure those nodes are still valid when it's the week of, and then take that trade later on, right? Um, and yeah, so for this week, I think Architect already he went through good explanation of why this week doesn't look as strong for it. But again, if we're 2 weeks later, this is more of a one of the stronger setups, right, where we're bouncing off a nice negative node and then pushing higher. Santa, yeah, yeah. So yeah, if you're bullish on December, of course, have your bias macro wise, but just be careful. I guess don't blindly apply it across the board, right? Because it's the same thing, right? Like people said, what was it? September's are usually red. There's always going to be the exception years, so don't get caught completely off guard because you have your bias that applies 12 out of 13 years. But if this is that 13th year, then you're going to get pretty cooked if you're coming in with too much of a bias. Okay. Okay, so that was UPST. We've done app. Okay, this list is huge. I'm gonna go through some of the more like higher volume tickers. Um, some of the ones that I know move, they tend to move well. So let me see here. Oh crap. Oops, typo there. Okay, so Amazon 2. Amazon's coming here on a bit of a resistance zone. Actually, looks like we just rejected today. Give me a second. Get some water. Let me see. There's a question I wanted to answer before, actually. Oh, Ramos. So I'll probably send my charts out later. I didn't have time. I was in one-on-ones before this, so I didn't have time to actually make a watch list and present. So I'll send that out in Swing Ideas. But typically, yeah, I guess, yeah, that's on me. In the future, I'll try to prep that stuff beforehand, but I tend to use these charting sessions also as a way to find my trades or at least find things that I'm not looking at or am looking at, and then later I go through a bit more detail. Um, okay, and on the YouTube side, CODs. I don't know if you said DEX. I don't know if you meant GEX or VEX. So let me know which one of the two you're looking at there. Okay, on Amazon. Let me take a look here. 1 hour. So we do have a decent level here. Yeah, we held this as resistance 2, 3 times. It bounced pretty well as support. broke under, retested, broke under, or sorry, broke under, retested, and flushed. So yeah, I'd be pretty interested if we can hold this 230, 232-ish as support based on the chart. Looking at the map, um, at least for this week, we have most of our volume between 230 and 245. Um, so again, like my preference when I'm looking at some of these trades, I generally don't play too much of the internal range, not internal range, but internal nodes. So I don't beat my head too much about some of these fluctuations and levels to play inside. What I would look at here on Amazon is like I would simplify down to all right, like we have low of the range down at 230. 230 is a level that's bounced a couple times in the past few weeks. So I'd really be looking, if we retest that level, we get a bounce off that. And yeah, let me have a ton of lines. Let me try to delete some of these to make that more clear. But yeah, now that we've rejected that upside, if we get this 230 tap, that aligns with pretty strong node here on the GEX. The VEX as well has some decent volume there. So then can we get the support level to hold once again on off the chart, right? So that's probably what I'd be looking for. Again, we don't know if we're going to end up revisiting that level or not. We may hold 235 and continue upwards, but I tend to wait pretty long, and I'd rather get sort of like our most, I call it like the most greedy entry, but it's just where we're at the extremes of these ranges, right? Um, yeah, so I mean, definitely like if we do reach that level, I can see the upside argument pretty well based on these UPX nodes. But again, it's another one where I would like to see a bit more develop next week that's in our favor, because right now we're pretty light on volume going into next week. So, and to Arky's point, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you'd probably want to see if we do get a bounce, some of this volume start flipping positive around this 240-ish. Sorry, not 240, 245-ish, 242-ish nodes. But correct me if I'm wrong there. Okay, so that is Amazon. What do we have? I know CoreWeave I'll go over because I know CoreWeave sometimes moves very nicely, but sometimes it also looks like crap. So, uh, yeah, I don't know. I don't have too much of a bias on CoreWeave, to be honest. Um, going to OPEX, it's pretty split. We don't. I mean, we have at least on VEX, we have a bit of a bias upwards. GEX is showing pretty even split. For this week, we're at a pretty strong clump of nodes here at the 75, 77. It looks like we had that move over the past few days, right? Like we were at 75 yesterday, pushed to 77 overnight, and then dropped. Or maybe not overnight, maybe this was early morning market. Yeah, so we pushed in the morning, and then just tailed off from there. Um, what do we reject here? 82, 83. Yeah, so I mean, I'd have to replay to see if there was a bit more activeness in terms of nodes up here, but right now, at least, I wouldn't see too much of an argument here. The only thing I can think of is if you're trying to play sort of like this 75, 76-ish support resistance flip. Um, I could see that as an okay argument. If you're trying to play this floor and push upwards. Issue there is like there's a lot in the way, right? There's a ton of nodes sort of scattered. And so we don't really have a clean low volume range for it to price to really shoot through, if that makes sense. Um, okay, so that's CoreWeave. Let me see. Okay, so we can cover, I guess, NVIDIA Meta if we want to look at some of the Max 7s. Okay. Okay, so NVIDIA. Yeah, so NVIDIA ran hard overnight. um, so I think late last week, actually, I liked NVIDIA quite a bit because we were getting a lot of stacking volume sort of pushing upwards. So, our range this week, we're pushing towards 182, even to 190, right? If we're looking at our range. Going into next week, we're seeing still consistent volume at 190, 200 a bit. 185 also has some volume, so probably be looking if we can push up to 185 this week and then see if we hold 185 as a floor going into next week and the week after. Obviously, OPEX nodes, we have a few like very distant ones at 220. I wouldn't, that gives us a bit of bias, but I would be focusing more on these nodes at 205, 195, 210, right? And even 190, right? Like right now, we have a lot of volume this week and next week. If we see that node get some growth for OPEX week over the next week and a half, that'll also show us that perhaps we're not going to get quite as high as some of these OPEX nodes are showing, right? So we need to always consider, like, of course, we have these as upside targets, and it gives us a very strong upside bias, but we need to also take into account what's in the way, right? Like what could potentially prevent us from reaching some of these like very ambitious levels, whether those are support resistance levels on the chart, previous all-time high, or other nodes that can develop and sort of hinder that full move upwards, right? But yeah, I think Nvidia is a pretty good example. I think if you look at last week or 2 weeks ago, it did have like a very, very clear staircase upwards. So even now, it's a pretty decent one. Um, but I think it might have been 1 or 2 weeks ago. It looked like very, very clean because it had a nice floor level. Right now, it doesn't really have a floor to play off of. I guess Monday. Well, actually, I take that back. I think Monday we had either 177 or 175 with good volume, so that would have been our floor to play off of. Um, but yeah, definitely on Vex, especially, we're seeing a really nice stair stepping pattern on Nvidia. Uh, okay, but yeah, I guess the issue with Nvidia is it's ran quite a bit, right? Like we ran 173 to 183 from Monday to overnight levels. So same thing like here, when in all these cases, right? You want to see where can we retrace to and where can we form a new floor for us to play that bounce off of, right? So if it's already ran, whether it's Nvidia or just any other ticker in general, make sure you're trying to shift your thesis of like, all right, if we already ripped whatever amount of dollars, let's see where we can find a new floor establishing or a new support resistance level that we broke through in our retesting and play off of that, right? Don't just blindly, not blindly, but like don't just assume that the move will continue because it's had strength in the first couple of days. Okay, so that was Nvidia. What else? Meta we can look at. Yeah, so I'm probably not gonna be able to cover all these ticker. Why is Meta? Oh, is Meta not on my list? Whoops. Okay, Meta. So let me see here. I don't know what this tiny box I drew is. What levels are these at? 635 to 630. Yeah, I'm not sure what this is for. Okay, so on Meta, honestly, a lot of these Max 7 stocks do have pretty high OPEX nodes. Um, yeah, I wonder if the market just rips in December. It'd be interesting. Okay, but yeah, Meta looking more at this week and not to the next couple weeks. So this one as well. The clear play here, I would say, would have been off 640. Obviously, we already tapped that and bounced both on Monday and yesterday, or sorry, yesterday and today. So from here, I'd probably say like this move likely already got exhausted. I wouldn't try to short 650. Like I know this, if you draw a range, that can be somewhat arguable, but what I would expect is a lot of this volume is going to be slowly pushing upwards. And they're going to the call positions that are, obviously in a good spot right now, they're going to sort of continue to try to push it a bit higher and higher. So I wouldn't try to short this, but at the same time, if you're wanting to look long, especially like going into OPEX, um, I would wait for some kind of retracement and a new floor to form. I would be cautious about playing 640 again. like playing a third bounce off 640 for reasons I listed on A firm, right? Like statistically, we're dropping our probability of a bounce there a lot if we're trying to play that bounce for the third time. Um, okay, yeah, so meta, like honestly, I think it already ran a bit, so there's not too much actionable at the moment. Unless we get a new floor step in under, or for example, if we're able to break above 650 and then claim that as a floor, that would also be, I could see that as a valid argument for some further upside. But okay, what else? As I'm trying, Geosh, yeah. So for the 650 deflection, you can. The main issue, in my view, is like we just pushed off these lower nodes and we have an upward bias long term. Um, so a lot of times what will happen is that we bounce off this lower node at 640. The volume still takes some time to shift and sort of reposition upwards. So sometimes that repositioning is very soon. Sometimes it lags a bit. So I've found when we get these strong bounces, and especially when we have a higher bias on the higher time frames, I'm pretty cautious to short. Obviously, you still can, like I've seen it work, but either take it as a scalp or just avoid it and try to target some of these more longer, not say longer, but like where we have higher risk reward and more of an upside on those trades. So I probably would stay away from shorting 650 on this one. Um, but I can see the argument there, right? Like we have decent double top, we have decent volume there at 650 on Gex, so I see the argument. I probably just wouldn't myself. Okay. Holy, these people are requesting a lot of stuff. Okay, so Oscar, STS. Yeah, I'll do my best to get through all of these. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to hit all this stuff because I do have to hop off at midnight because I have one-on-ones. Okay. Meta. Let me see. Someone asked for Etsy a while ago. Etsy. I don't know if I've ever traded Etsy, so I'm not too sure here. Let me think here. This map doesn't look bad actually. So like we do have a bit of a rug pull set up here at 57, 56. Obviously we'd have to pop up, hit that level for that to happen. That also lines up with this previous support at around 56 here. Actually, take that back. I can draw this as, oh, shoot. So you have this sort of zone that we bounced off of twice in the past. It does line up with this. I don't know if anyone trades for value gaps, right? Like we do also have this bit of a gap here. Um, so yeah, if we do come up tap 56, 57, I can see the argument here of like, all right, we have this rug pull set up for this week, and then we also have, they're not super strong, but we do have a couple nodes to the downside with decent volume on VEX over the next couple weeks. Yeah, so I don't mind this one. It's just note that it's a bit lower volume than we would love, right? But overall, the setup, I don't see much wrong with that. QCOM. Okay, so QCOM, let me see. Yeah, so QCOM this week, seems we do have a pretty good. Give me a second here. We have the pretty good previous support at around this 168-ish. That lines up with this clump of nodes at 170, 167.5. At least on VEX, we're seeing pretty good upside into the next couple weeks. So this is an example, right, of like when we're looking at OPEX nodes, you know, this upside is given a bit more um, validity since we're seeing good volume also taken the week before, right? So, I mean, obviously, this is a negative gamma position there, but the fact that we're seeing some volume there means we'll likely get a push. I'm not saying we'll push all the way 2 weeks out, but we'll likely get a push through this week into next week. But yeah, with that's a pretty strong position at 180, so there's also a risk we reject there going into OPEX week. But yeah, in any case, the I would say the you'd probably it looks like we're pushing a bit higher overnight actually, but you'd probably be wanting to wait for this 168 to 170 ish area, and see if we can retest, get another bounce there. So it looks like we might have bounced off it today. So it's on, we never know if we're going to revisit and get that second bounce, but um, I would say that's probably the thesis you're going to want to take on QCOM. Is it okay to send a bunch of charts for Yeah, Kwan Yu, you can send me charts anytime, or send them in the chat, or send them to me privately. I reply to everyone every day for whatever charts they're sort of whatever trade theses they're trying to look through. At what point do you say 170 is a floor and not a ceiling? Um, jo- nah, Kwan Yu, go ahead. It's no problem, promise. Josh, yeah, so that depends a lot based on the ticker, right? Because, for example, I actually don't know how QCOM moves, but like let's assume QCOM is a bit of a slower mover. When we overshoot and then retest, so like when we know it's not when we know, but when we most likely predict that it's going to hold as a floor, we can maybe for this ticker we say it's all right. We overshot by $1 or $2. We're retesting, and now it's likely a floor. Other tickers that are a lot more volatile. So, for example, CoreWeave, OKLO, when it was having a lot of its like heavy fluctuations. If you look at $2, it doesn't matter. Like some of the lower wicks on those tickers were like $4 to $5, right? Um, so it depends a lot on what ticker you're looking at, right? So if you're looking at OKLO and you're waiting to see how far above do we break, so then we retest and flip that level from support to resistance or from resistance to support, whichever direction you're looking at. Um, you have to know what ticker you're looking at, the volatility of it, and then what are the expected moves and expected overshoots, right? Because a ticker that overshoots a high amount, you're going to want to give it a bigger you're going to want to see a higher break above or a break below before you claim that level to have flipped from ceiling to floor or from floor to ceiling. On this map here on QCOM, I would probably put it at maybe $1 or $2. It seems we aren't getting too much wiki action on it. But again, I don't know if I've ever traded QCOM, so I don't want to speak too much to it because I just don't know the nature of the stock, right? So then this is also why it's quite important to make sure you're sticking to tickers that you, at least while you're starting out, right? Make sure you stick to the same batch of tickers. And that's really going to help you learn some of these behaviors, and when to expect a severe overshoot, minor overshoot, and some of these smaller things, right? So make sure you're trying to identify a subset of tickers that you know well, you know how they move, you know they have good volume, um, and that'll really help you out um, long term. So you know, either find your own if you want somewhere to start off from. I think Jewel shared his list of like 40-ish stickers that he looks through. So obviously Jewel obviously knows what he's doing. So if you want to start from there and sort of add your own, feel free to do that. If not, try to find your own list um of maps that you or not maps, but of tickers that you like. Okay, Quan Yu. So if there's no resistance like this one, it's okay to take puts. Uh, I don't know. What do you mean no resistance? Well, I guess the map you're looking at, what ticker is this? Twilio? Oh, okay. Yeah, say Twilio. the nodes are quite low volume, right? Like the 133 node is pretty soft volume wise, but in terms of where's our range and where's the majority of volume for this week, um, there's not much volume above, right? So I would expect if we're at 133, we probably won't go much higher, and we'll get some form of dip, right? I'm not saying we'll drop all the way to 123, but we should get some form of a rejection to the downside. What I'd watch out for is if that either the 127 or the 129 and 130 nodes grow in volume and act as a potential hindrance or roadblock before we drop all the way to 123. Hopefully that helps, Kuan Yu. Okay. All right. So I think Kuan Yu we went through. Let me look over at MU. Oh, Kuan Yu, you meant send in here. Oh, now I see why you made that comment. uh, yeah, Quan. So let me go through a few more of the older requests, and then I'll look through some of the ones you're sending. Um, okay, yeah, this dude, you got him stocked up. All right, MU. Huh, this is interesting. Yeah, so MU, we have a super strong level at 240, right? Like we have volume there this week, next week, and the week after. Yeah, Quan, I'll get to those. Shoot. All right, let me try to pick up the pace on some of the ones I have listed down, and then I'll get to yours. Okay. Oh, you already took a look at MU as well. Yeah, no problem. Lepido. I don't know how to say that. Lepidopterist. Okay. Yeah. So on MU, it looks like we dipped and hit 235 today. So actually that would have been, going into yesterday, I don't know what the maps look like, but it looks like we fought above this 235 level. Today we dipped down, tapped that 235. Wow, actually this trade would have been great. Yeah, like we spent less than 20 minutes probably under 235, and then we bounced upward. $5 for today. So I guess the issue going forward with this one is I'm not seeing too much volume upside next week. So then what might happen here is if we push a bit higher, I'd probably wait for next week and see can we hit this 240 level again and get another bounce upwards towards that OPEX node. So whether it's a bounce next week or whether it's a bounce 2 weeks from now, I would keep an eye on that 240 level and see if we can get another retest and another reversal there. So yeah, MU looks strong there. Okay, yeah, so that's MU. Someone asked for Chipotle. So I think Chipotle has already ran quite a bit lately, if my memory's good. Quite a bit. Yeah, and Chipotle's ran a lot, actually. So I don't know what happened here. I don't know if that was news or if Chipotle's just on a tear, but oh, whoever's talking about Chipotle is probably playing this node, maybe. It's 37 node. Yeah, so I guess one thing to be cautious of on Chipotle is this node was most like the majority of that position might have been taken already from previous OPEX, which was the 20 something, the 21, I believe. No, 24, I think. Obviously Chipotle was trading a lot higher then. So I was showing more of a downside move, and actually on earnings, yeah, this thing tanked. Really? Actually, it lost like 20% of its value. Wow, I didn't realize. Um, yeah, so the main, I guess, not the main, yeah, the one hesitancy I have with this map is we're not seeing any floor levels, right? We have this strong upside. we're not seeing much to bounce off of. On the chart, let me see here. Something on higher time frames. Yeah, on the chart, like I guess you could be playing this high from a few weeks ago, or play this as sort of a gap. So as like a bullish fair value gap and play the top of there and a bounce further upside. But yeah, overall Chipotle, like I'd probably be waiting just to see if we get a bit of a stronger level somewhere to play the bounce off of, right? So maybe this 34 next week, or even this week, but next week's a bit stronger, and then look for a level like that for us to bounce off of. And yeah, so I'd say right now, like Chipotle, yeah, it looks biased upwards. I'd probably be waiting for a bit of a clear thesis of what to bounce off of before taking a trade on there. Okay, so Nike. Let me see here. So yeah, Nike does look pretty bullish into OPEX. We have like a bit of higher nodes this week, like $1, $2 higher. Next week we also have this nice 67.5 node. Let me see. Yeah, it seems this 65 level is pretty important. The chart. Okay, so yeah, this previous high. But honestly, even this level up here. So also a bit of a level up here towards 66. So we do have a bit of a range here, where we've held a support. So yeah, again, I should probably be drawing these as rectangles, but so I'll start doing that as this a bit more clear. But yeah, we've held a support a couple times, broke through, held as resistance a couple times. So I'd say it's pretty. Nike's gonna flip bullish, like longer term. We're definitely gonna want to need to fight above this and either retest and go or just push above and continue. Um, but yeah, probably what I'd be looking for here is can we break above this 65 to 66-ish area, push above, retest and go, and then see a move towards what the maybe towards 70, going into OPEX. But um, yeah, that's I guess one concern there as well. Yeah, one concern there is this 65 node on OPEX week. On the GEX, we'd like for some of that volume to start probably rolling higher. Uh, okay. Okay, that's Nike. UNH. Oh, Palantir. I didn't even see that. Yeah, I'll do Palantir next. I think someone asked for that a while ago. Okay, UNH. UNH is fairly messy right now. The reason I say that, at least on a 1 week time frame, is we have a range from about 342 to 315. We're almost exactly in the middle of that. A bit skewed towards the low side, but overall, we're not near either extreme. So, at least on a weekly basis, I don't see much of a play here. Um, if we visit 315, that would be pretty nice, and that'd be a really nice entry. You know, we'd be having this previous support, previous resistance, act as support again, right? So I think 315 definitely has a super strong argument. It's the low range on the maps. It's a very good support resistance level. Um, so I'd probably be waiting for that. I think unless we hit there, I probably wouldn't take much on this. Yeah, I guess the Vex is biased a bit upwards, but again, I wouldn't. It's probably not strong enough, and there's also no nodes the week preceding it, so I probably wouldn't want to take a trade off that. Okay, so as UNH, we can look at Palantir now. Give me a second. Okay, so we go over here to Palantir. Yeah, so Palantir had a pretty nice downwards wedge. It looks like we broke out. Yeah, we broke out last week, even Thanksgiving week, retested, and then last week we've been running up since. Or not last week, Monday, yesterday. Um, yeah, if we manage to claim this 170 level, at least based on the chart, that's pretty critical. And hold that as a support. Like that level acted as support, like 5 times, 6 times. So definitely something that we want to reclaim and hold that. Um, Looking at the VEX, we do have pretty good volume upside, right? We have 175 to 180, going the week after towards 182, 185, and 2 weeks out, honestly, we're probably looking at 180, 180 to 180 to 200, right? Like it's a wider range, but it's all to the upside over this week, next week, and 2 weeks out. Um, Yeah, so honestly, like Palantir looks pretty strong. What I'd be looking for, I don't know if I'd take an entry this week just because that upside is pretty capped, right, at 172, 175. So I'd probably be waiting either if we can claim that level and then bounce off it going into next week, or if next week we're able to get a strong purple node to form under us and then bounce off of that because at least currently we're in a bit of no man's land where we'd have to retrace pretty far towards like 165, 160-ish to get a bounce. But I'm also not comfortable longing just due to that, those strong nodes overhead. So I'd want to see it break above and then bounce and continue. Okay, that was what Palantir. Okay, so what else do we have? We have FedEx. All right, let's see here. Yeah, so based on the chart, I'm not seeing too much on FedEx. I'll be honest. Based on the maps, let me see. Okay, so FedEx has pretty decent staircase down, based on the GEX and VEX. We didn't quite hit 277. I think we hit, actually, we might have on Friday. No, we hit 276. So we hit just under that 277 node. Again, I don't know what these look like last Friday, but if they look similar to what they do now, that would have been a pretty good entry on the short side. What we can look for is potentially a double top there around that 277 level. It's our high of range for this week, and we do have pretty strong nodes at the downside at 260 next week and 250 for OPEX. So yeah, that probably be my bias here is all right, like set an alert at this previous local high. Um, See if we can go revisit that level. If we hit it, try to play that double top to the downside, assuming the maps stay similar to what they look like right now. Okay, so that's FedEx. Zscaler. Whoa, this stock has been getting murdered. All right, so Zscaler just took out this lower wick from an old earnings. Well, that's not where the wick is. Like here, roughly. Uh, hmm. Okay, yeah, let me see where this floor is. Um, wow, okay, they just died off good earnings. Interesting. Yeah, so I'd be looking for, where can we see a floor on Zscaler? Obviously, it's been tanking for a while. I wouldn't recommend chasing onto puts. It seems we could have a floor here at 237. Um, yeah, honestly, the 237 floor looks pretty decent. The issue, not issue, but again, with any stock that's had a pretty like explosive move to one side, just recognize there's a bit of risk as a lot of a lot of the volume gets shifted lower. Not always lower, but just to different places, right? And a lot of sometimes it's lower, and that can get in the way of you playing upside and playing that reversal because you'll get these nodes that appear quite rapidly, and they sort of stunt your upside, right? So, for example, if we're playing the bounce off 237 and we see that 242 or 245 node grow a bunch, that shows us even if we take that bounce, it may not be so long lived of a reversal, right? So that just um, helps you decide how long you hold your positions, when take trims, etc. Okay, that was Zscaler, Ulta. So Quanya, I think you sent your chart for this. Is Quanya still in here? Oh shoot. Oh no, yeah he is. All right. So yeah, I'm trying to go through a few of those charts he sent. Okay, so yeah, first let me see what I come up with on the chart, and then I'm gonna check what you sent. Okay, yeah. So Ulta first comment. Wow. Okay, so first comment on the Gex of Ulta is that these nodes are tiny. I don't. Is it always like this? I don't. I don't think I've ever traded this. So I'd have to look into if the nodes are always this small. So I would, yeah, just take it a bit cautious on the sizing, because don't know if I've ever seen nodes this small. Oh, is it? Wait, they have earnings? Oh, bruh. Uh, yeah. I mean, Ulta has earning in 2 days. I wouldn't trade this at all. OPEX week is pretty split bias. Like we do have decent amount of volume upside and downside. Yeah, I don't see much here to tell us what we can expect for earnings. Let me check your chart though. Okay, so you're looking at 520, 575. Oh, okay, I see. Okay, yeah, that's a good point. So if earnings we go tap either side based on those OPEX nodes, then look for a reversal. Yeah, I can. That looks pretty reasonable to me. But yeah, at least right now it's pretty complex. But with an earnings catalyst, we should approach one of those sides, and then we can try to play a reversal off those. Okay, that was Ulta. Okay, Oscar. I think someone on YouTube had asked for Oscar. I don't. Well, actually, I don't know how many people are on YouTube. It's. I don't get view counts on that. Oscar. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know how much I like this one. So at least for this week, it looks like Oscar. Actually, that was last week that we rejected off 18 and a half. I'd probably be waiting for 16. If we're able to hit 16, I'd try longs. Um, I'm not too confident in it because we don't really have upside pull next week. And that OPEX upside is actually at least relative, assuming we get a $16 entry, that $17 large note on OPEX is not too much upside, right? So of course, if we break through that and push towards 19 and 20, that's definitely worth it. But yeah, I guess that the amount of volume on the 17 node is more of my concern. Um, Assuming we get the $16 tap and then we can play longs. But so yeah, I mean, I'll probably track this. I don't know if I'd play this though. But yeah, the $16 level does align here. This previous low wick, I guess even if you draw it up here, so we had, we bounced out this level a couple times. One time on earnings, one time a few days after. Um, Tapped it again Thanksgiving week can bounce really hard. So let's see if we tap again and hold um, for this level. Yeah, okay. Oscar, okay, ASTS. Oh, where am I? There we go. Okay, yeah, ASTS, similar, right? Like, at least for this week, we're in the middle of a range. We're obviously biased a lot higher for OPEX. Um, I don't know if there's too much more actionable for this week. I'd say probably the play was the bounce off 50, which never happened. Actually, we bounced off around 52. So yeah, to catch this play, you probably would have been had to trading fib retracements. Um, yeah, you can argue there's a level here, but I would say most likely if you took an entry here, you're probably playing fib retracements because at least at the time, at least right now, heat maps are not supporting that. But now that we have bounced pretty strongly, the heat maps are saying, all right, we do have a bit of room to upside, right? Like all this volume stacked from 62 to 56 is very low. So showing that if we, if we hold this 55 and push upwards, we see the 63 node growing a bit more, we can likely get a pretty nice continuation upwards. All right, so that was ASTS. Okay, someone asked for Zeta. Uh, Wait 1 second. I think, yeah, yeah, I remembered. So yeah, Zeta is not even. It was added a week ago. I'm not gonna cover this. So essentially, what happens? I don't know if who asked for Zeta. Okay, so on the YouTube side, I don't know if you're still here, Cairo or Kiro, but when we add maps recently, so for this one a week, basically what happens is that it starts tracking the positioning taken from the day it's added going forward. What that means is obviously it builds a nice picture after a long time, right? After 2 to 3 months, it's collected enough data, and it should be very accurate on the positions that are, that are being held or that were at least entered for whatever ticker it may be. If you if we take a play on this now, the risk is what if 2 weeks ago some huge position was taken on Zeta? We're not capturing it because the heat map just started seeding the data last week. So we there's a strong potential we could miss very important information. So that's why we tend to wait 3 months is best, but at least 2 months before we start looking at some of these maps and trusting them too much. Uh, okay, so that was Zeta. Let me see here. Okay, Lululemon. Uh, yeah, Cairo, no issue. All right, Lululemon. Yeah, so Lulu's had very strong move. We're consolidating past couple days. Um, Seems like we approached this previous high wick from late October and then have held there. So this is also lining up with a pretty good support resistance level here at around 186-ish. So that's what we rejected off of last week. Going into this week, sorry, give me a second here. So it does look like we're at a bit of a ceiling. Um, Looks like we tapped 185 today. So like I would definitely say that the best play would have been all right once we hit 185 top of this range, then try to play that rejection downwards. We do have fairly strong downside OPEX nodes. We do have a few upside though, so I wouldn't. Yeah, I'd be careful there, being super biased downwards on OPEX, because even with some slight reshuffling, I think the upside could actually take over. But for this week, like we're rejecting pretty well off 185. So if we continue to push lower through 182, 180, we do have decent targets at 175, 172 for this week. And then yeah, if you're willing, I guess if you take longer dated plays, you could in theory hold through next week. Looking at those OPEX notes, but yeah, I would probably focus on this being 1 week play. But honestly, like the best entry is probably this morning when we rejected off close to 185. Okay, so that's Lululemon, Airbnb. Okay, Lululemon. There's AI. Oh wait. Oh wait. This thing has earnings. Is this post market or pre market? Okay, his earnings tomorrow. I don't know. I mean, looks like it's biased upwards a bit, but I don't wanna. Not gonna spend too much time on that if it has earnings, because those can just, a lot of nodes can get just straight disrespected on earnings. Okay, Dell. Give me a second here. Yeah, Dell has strong volume for sure. Let me pull up the chart. Snow and Oracle. I'll add those. Okay. Oh, sorry. There's a question on Lulu. Does Lulu does that Lulu mean it's going to 150 earnings December 11th? Lulu has earnings. Oh, it does. It has them next week. Um, yeah. So Kiro. I guess the simple answer is we don't know, right? Just because we have a king node upside or downside doesn't mean that we're always going to visit it due to earnings or due to OPEX or whatever the catalyst may be. It's never so simple of an assumption, right? So we can be biased down. Um, but yeah, I'd be a bit careful about just the wording, right? Of saying, all right, we're gonna go down just because we have that large node to the downside or upside. What stock had earnings? AI has earnings tomorrow after close, and then Lululemon has earnings next week. I don't know if that was there's something else that had earnings, but I don't remember. I don't remember which one it was. Right. So yeah, back to Dell. So Quan, you were saying that you said something about Dell. Oh yeah, if we break 140, we're gonna push towards 160. So yeah, this one. So let me see here. Yeah, we do have like the zone here, which we've held as resistance. We're currently still holding as resistance, but if we're able to break above that, be pretty bullish. Um. Oh, okay, we're looking at the same thing then. Yeah, thanks, Quan. Yeah, so definitely, I think if we break 140 there, chart wise, that's super, like very good argument. I guess yeah, you're drawing your supply all the way down here. Yep, that makes sense. Based on the maps, yeah, it definitely looks we have room to the upside. Um, if we hit 160 by OPEX, I don't know, but I would expect we at least see This 145 level is somewhat strong, and then we also have this 150, 50-ish, 152-ish. So yeah, Dell, I definitely think, yeah, if we break above and hold, based on the chart, it's a good play. I'd say the maps are probably missing a floor, right? Like at least currently, it's not very obvious of a play, even though we do have a very strong isolated node on Vex. I would say short time frame, there's no floor. It's pretty tricky there to establish when to enter. Okay, Dell, Airbnb is next. Give me a second, actually. Let me text the person that I have a one-on-one with. Probably just gonna, yeah, I'll probably just push that one back. All right, so Airbnb. Midnight. Yeah, I probably should, Quan, but I tend to stay up pretty late. Okay, yeah, there's a few things I also wanted to try to finish up tonight. Okay, so Airbnb. Let me see here. I mean, yeah, we have a pretty strong trend line here. Looks like we broke retested. We reclaimed this 117 level. That was pretty major. It looks like this 120 level is giving the issues. And we're gonna get some chop here, the 121, 122. So let me think here. I guess you could argue playing a rejection off 121. I don't know if I would, just because previously it has been a lot of chop actually. So I'm worried that we push up into this 121 area and just chop around for a while. So I don't know if I have much of a thesis on Airbnb. If he's on West Coast, Boba. Are you talking about me? No, I'm on East Coast. Okay, Snowflake. All right. Sorry, I was getting my chair. Oh, my bad, Boba. Yeah, I didn't. I didn't get that one. I missed that one. All right. Snowflake. Snowflake has earnings, so I'm not. I mean, yeah, like I don't know. I mean, there's a bias upwards on volume on Snowflake, but with earnings, it's hard to say. It's not really. I don't really look into the earnings too much. All right. Oracle. Hmm. Yo, Quan, when you say all the chartings, do you mean like every ticker? Or do you have like a subset? Oracle, this one's also pretty tricky. So let me see, like Oracle, if we're holding this 190-ish level, like I do think if we revisit here, that'd be a pretty good. Holy crap, that's not what I wanted. Like here, right? This would be really good double bottom. Based on the map, it looks like we're looking at 192-ish, but there's a lot of stacked nodes, so like this is pretty complicated. Not pretty complicated, but pretty risky trade maybe to take. It looks like we've hit the 210 node and rejected off of that today. So that would have been a valid play, of course. What you might be able to look for is if we revisit 210, try the breakthrough, because we've already tapped it twice, or wait for this lower 195-ish to 192-ish level to get hit. And if we still see a lot of volume upside, like this 230 node and some of these 240 to 220 nodes on OPEX, then that would be a good place to long. The real concern there is that 175 node does actually have good volume, both next week and OPEX week, as well as this 185 on OPEX. So yeah, honestly, on Oracle, I might call this more, we've just started consolidation period. These maps, they're not super, super clear, so I'd stay away. Um, okay. Uh, okay. Yeah, thanks, Bixby. Let me look through Quan Use and then I can get to Bixby's. So I have another 30 minutes, so that's not too bad. We can look through some of these. Uh, Quan Yu, are you sending most of these charts with Gex or Vex? It's looking like Vex, but I may be wrong. Oh no, it's with Gex actually. Okay. Yeah, so actually I'm just gonna open yours. There's no point in me copying the same stuff over. Oh, are these blurry? Uh, for everyone watching, are you able to see these images well? If not, I'll just pull them up on my own. Oh shoot. Kiro, I don't know which ticker you're talking about for that question about if price drops to 150. That was like 10 minutes ago. So yeah, please let me know what ticker that was for and I can revisit it. Holy, Boeing exploded. Wait, damn. How did I miss Boeing? I had this charted. Did I not? Oh, I think I remember what happened. Yeah, I think Boeing. Oh, this sucks. Yeah, Boeing, I definitely had an alert, probably on the lower wick to the left. So I probably missed that entry. I never got alerted. Um, if price drops to 150, near means bias is going up. Kiro, I don't know if I understand your question. If we go to 150 on Lulu, the bias is going up. Yeah, I mean, if we drop all the way to 150 to that node there, that negative node, yeah, I would say the bias is up. But we'd have to lose $30 in a few days, right, for that to happen. Does that cover your question, Kiro? I don't know if I'm understanding the question properly. Wait, what? Wait, Guanyu, are you talking about on indexes? Are you saying for whatever map we are looking at? Oh yeah, you're definitely talking about the maps. Okay. uh, oh, I see what you're saying. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you do play the higher one, right? With your strat. So you'd be looking at something like this. Or would you look at the lower one? I'll be honest, I'm still working through this one, right? Oh, I see. So you have the BPR. Yeah, honestly, that one played out according to your strategy. Yeah, Boeing. Yeah, I'm kind of frustrated. Yeah, Boeing. I'd say this play priority took off, so I probably wouldn't want to spend too much time trying to figure out how to get there. Um, yeah, off that 200 level is well, I'm sure that wasn't there yesterday, but okay. Oh, Kiro. Okay, yeah, back to your question on Lululemon. Last earnings, it dropped a lot. Wait, what? Lulu has earnings coming up? Oh, I see what you're saying. I mean, yeah, like, it's possible next week we hit earnings and this thing drops to $30. Drops $30 to 150. I don't really take those plays. So I don't, I mean, there's a downwards bias, but there's not much else I can say there because it's not something I'm very experienced with on the earnings plays. All right. Okay, I'll keep going. Okay, so Quan Yu, you sent Dutch Bros. I don't know what this company is. Oh, whoops. I'm typing in Discord. Bruh. Whoops. All right. Uh, Kiro. Depends on the setup. Sometimes I'll trade weeklies. Sometimes I'll trade 2 weeks. Sometimes I'll trade monthlies. It depends. But I'll say recently, with some of the market volatility, I've been doing a lot shorter term trades. Wow. Wait, how long has Dutch Bros been seeding? 31 day. Okay, so a month. Yeah, a month is decent. I don't hate it. Yeah, the setup is pretty strong, right? We're holding 60. Or if we're able to claim above 60. So essentially, I guess we can just play this as like, all right, if we break this level here, break and retest, and then go long. This setup looks pretty good. At least for 65 2 weeks out. There's a bit of volume at 63 next week. Yeah, I like the map. I've never played Dutch Bros though, and the volume's a bit low, and it's only been seeding 1 month, so there's a couple caveats, but like the setup itself um, looks pretty good. Cairo, what's the longest I've held? Yeah, so earlier this year I played a lot of like 4 month positions. A lot of them were actually leaps. I ended up cutting them though in September because I was anticipating a red month. Um, obviously September wasn't red, but October was. Like we started getting some deeper pullbacks, so I've done some longer, like higher time frame plays. But recently it's been almost all a week or less. And then yeah, for shares, no shares, I typically don't trade shares. Something I'm gonna start working on, but yeah, at least as of now, it's not something I have much experience with. A one-on-one with Guan Yu. Yeah, Guan Yu's expert Boba. Um, well, he posts his charts every day actually, so I'd recommend not just you, Boba, but like anybody who trades futures, take a look at Guan Yu stuff. He's super skilled on the future side. Um, yeah. So yeah, bros, I think it looks good. It's just a couple comments I made about like 1 month. It's only been seeding 1 month. Pretty low volume, so just take a take it with a grain of salt there. All right. So that was bros. You sent something else, Quan. All right, so you sent Citigroup and you sent what? Van Eck Gold Miners? What is that? I'll just look at Citigroup. Yeah, what's the actual ticker? I couldn't find it on your chart. Or I'm blind. I must have missed it. Citigroup. Whoa, those are massive positions on OPEX. Interesting. Yeah, Citigroup. I'd probably just be looking for that 101 level. And honestly, this level I have on my chart from who knows when I drew this is at 1015. Sorry, 1016. So yeah, honestly, like for this kind of setup, I'll probably just set an alert. If it hits, it hits. If not, then that's fine. The trade will happen. But yeah, it's probably something where yeah, just wait for that retap down, that 100, 101 floor, and then try to long based on those OPEX nodes. The same warning here as some of these other plays. There's not good volume next week, so we are pretty dependent on those OPEX nodes. So I wouldn't say it's like an A, let's say like an A plus, but setup looks decent. Okay, gold miners. Oh, GDX. All right. Oh, I see you're playing this downside node. Yeah, it's massive. Interesting. Um, yeah, so we do have pretty consistent volume at 85 on GDX, which I think aligns with this wick over here. Yeah, this is a bit above, but 85 aligns pretty well with this previous wick. So then what I'd say here is GDX is currently at 82. Yeah, if we revisit that level sweep and then play rejection, then I'd be pretty comfortable with puts there. Um, at least short time frame, longer time frame. Yeah, that 75 level does have strong pull, so I would consider taking maybe a longer day to play with the lotto. But I guess the issue with this and any of these like ETFs is you always want to go back and check the whatever ticker it's relying on in the first place and just make sure you're seeing the same pattern on that one, right? So you can check out GLD on this one and just say, are we seeing a similar pattern or not? If we're not, um, well, yeah, I mean, it's self-explanatory, but so just try to look if we see a similar trend on GLD or not. Okay, Quan, did I handle all of your charts and questions? Okay, and yeah, if you have any questions, because I know for options it's fairly new to you. Obviously, price action, you know how to read all of that, but if you have any questions on anything on the option side, let me know, whether here or you can DM me. Okay, Ramesh, what is the difference between GEX and VEX? Yeah, so GEX is our gamma maps, which is basically a derivative based on delta. Vanna, so the VEX maps is a volatility derivative for each ticker. So they serve a bit of a different purpose. And if you want to if you want to learn like sort of what each one means and like what they mean on the market mechanics side, I would encourage you to go read there's this document called the Greek, what is it called? Greek Bible or something that Glitch wrote. That's very informative. Um, but like in a simple sense, if you just want like how do we apply this for our trades? GEX is going to give us a lot of shorter term fluctuations. The nodes shift around a lot more. The volume is more variable, like it moves from place to place a lot quicker. So we use that for our more shorter term trades. Like if you're day trading indexes, you're going to be using VEX almost all the time, just the GEX alone. Once you start getting into individual trades or you're taking 1 to 2 weeks, you're going to want to use a mix where a lot of time the GEX will give you your good bounce floors, like bounce areas, whether it's a floor or a ceiling. And then a lot of times the VEX will give you your overall bias and let you know where your price targets are. So use them in conjunction, but the VEX is better at showing you longer term targets. The GEX is more shorter term. Um, and yeah, like if you're doing anything over 2 weeks, I'll probably be still take a look at GEX. It can help you with entries on trades, but you're gonna be driving your main bias almost entirely with the VEX. Hopefully that answers your questions, Ramesh. Okay, perfect. Yeah, dashing Bixby. I think I may look into that document. Actually, you know what? Let's just open it right now. I got 13 minutes. Why not? Unless anyone else has any other questions. Oh, this is not the full doc. So what is this? Just like the top ones? Oh, okay. A setups. Wait, what? Apple rejection off 285. Hmm. Deflection. So I guess on Apple you're saying we pull back. Huh. Is it possible? Yeah, send me the full doc because I don't know if I'm missing something on some of these setups. But some of these, yeah, I might be misunderstanding them. So I don't want to say anything. Um, yeah, what I'd also recommend doing, Bixby. Okay, okay, yeah, that helps. What I'd recommend doing as well is for anything that is an ETF, like DIA, um, XLE, XLF. For some of those, I just put an asterisk on them because a lot of time these ETF maps will show pretty ambitious targets, but then when you go check, I don't remember which one DIA tracks. It's one of the main indexes, but when you go check the actual index itself, a lot of times they don't agree very like completely. So I I don't actually I don't even chart any ETFs. Um, that's a personal choice, but I would at least put an asterisk of when people see that as an A setup or for yourself, make sure that you're checking what is the underlying, like what makes up that ETF and does that have similar setups. And Bixby, yeah, I think pattern PD is also something I need to work a bit on the weekend. I'm gonna try to input a bit more trade scenarios for individual tickers because I mean, the concepts apply to both, but it's pretty heavy on indexes. So I do want to add more examples on individual tickers. Loon, did we try SPX? No. Uh, so yeah, let's see. So XPX has actually been pretty range bound. Look at this. Actually, I don't even think I noticed this until now. Actually, it's pretty crazy. So Loon, you might. I know you're more accustomed looking at some of the longer term stuff on SPX. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Guess we do have a few upside nodes going a couple days out. I don't know. I don't look too much into swinging indexes. Loon, I think you do, right? Or you used to, right? I think you used to play one DTE, two DTE contracts all the time. 10? Holy. Okay. Yeah, I didn't I didn't know. Um Oh, okay. You have less time. Got you. Yeah, wow. Okay. Um I don't know. I mean, I can go over SPX. So I guess if you're doing 10 DTEs, let me switch to the hourly maybe. So I guess a lot of the stuff I was gonna look at wouldn't even apply to you. Since you're looking higher time frame. Let me see here. So we do have this gap back here. Um, so we do have a pretty good support resistance around here, which is what we bounced off of twice actually in this week. Let me delete these lines I just drew earlier, actually. So yeah, actually the 6806 level has been pretty strong. We bounced off of it. We rejected it, bounced off it once, two, three, four times now. It's been tested quite a few times, so I don't know how much I trust it. Again, now what else do we have? We have a level. I guess we have a bit of a level here. Um, yeah, maybe here, and then I think if you drop down, yeah, if you get a bit lower time frame, there's also a bit of a like a lower trend line. Let me see here. Actually, maybe it's more on the macro. So yeah, I can see a bit of an argument here of like, okay, we have a bit of a wedge here, but again, I guess I haven't traded in this manner in quite some time, so I'll focus more on that 6806 level, 6863. This one's a bit weaker, but it's definitely the 6806 level under. It's pretty strong. Let me see. But yeah, overall, SPX, I guess the indexes in general, right? They've been at least a couple days of consolidation. So, see if we get a couple more, then that's probably tipping us off that we'll get some expansion move afterwards. Can't figure out support for the price action on Friday. Let's go back to Friday then. That was Monday. Well, Friday I wouldn't. I mean, we had a support resistance flip here. Um, I don't know if it was the same on QQQ. Actually, let me check real quick. So QQQ, if we're looking at Friday, yeah. So I think it was only valid on SPX or SPY. QQQ That support resistance was way too low. Why? Because you could have played it at the beginning of the day. Um, so we did get a bit of a bounce there. But yeah, the big, yeah, to your point. Oh, okay. Let me go back. Okay, yeah, I misunderstood that question. Yeah, let's look at the heat maps on Friday. We can quickly look through it. I don't have like 4 minutes. Okay. So on Friday, yeah, it was a half day. So again, it's a bit of a wonky day. But if we're looking at 940, let me see here. So I think one reversal that actually was playable was this double bottom here around 940. Um, yeah. So like, obviously we have low nodes at 6750 and at 609 on QQQ and SPX. But we are, in terms of range, where we are currently, SPX sort of is from 6815 to 6850. So when we're tapping 6820, right, we're hitting midpoint of this like stack of nodes. So pretty good argument there of being at the low of the range, and I will get a bounce upwards. SPY, same thing, right? We're approaching 680. Low of range, and see if we expect to move upwards. QQQ, similar. So I know this is within the first 30-minute window, so I don't know if I would have traded this myself, but we are getting pretty good confluence across the board of some strong floors there. So that was Friday morning. Let me see. So the only other thing we can really check here is if we were able to see that double top around 11:15. Obviously, this is all in hindsight, right? Like I don't. It's gonna sound simple now because we're looking at it later, but um, yeah, I don't know if I would have taken this trade actually. So like we are at the top of the range on SPX, right? This is 6845, 6850. We didn't quite. We tapped 6844. So yeah, we're towards the upper end of our range here. SPY. I probably would have been waiting for either 684 to tap or even 619 on QQQ. So that's the reason why I said like I don't think I would have played this, even though we were on all three maps roughly towards the upper end of the range. I would have much preferred if SPY and QQQ hit a bit higher, right, and hit 619, 620, 684, 685, one of those values. Um, yeah, so let's look. We then revisited that level 1210. So let's see. Let me change this replay. Let me see here. So I'd say here maybe is it maybe a bit cleaner on the rejection actually. Actually, that QQQ node just keeps flashing in and out. Interesting. 1214. Yeah, so I mean, especially if you look at it when this QQQ node was a lot weaker. It looks like it was just a blip of time, but we're getting pretty strong pull downside on QQQ. Same thing as before, right? SPX is towards top end of range. Same with SPY. SPY this time actually did hit that 683, so that's a bit extra. And then obviously chart wise, right, we're getting a perfect double top. So I wouldn't say Friday was very clear. Like I think the morning play was a bit more clear. And let me check this end of day play. But I also think like with it being a half day, I don't have much experience for like how these half days go with Heatseeker. Um, but yeah, we can always just mark it as a bit of a riskier time to trade, right? Um, yeah, and it looks like end of day, we did get like a huge spike. So it looks like we were bouncing off the SPX floor. QQQ had a bit of a like a trampoline setup or the inverse rug pull. I guess SPY is where the argument falls apart a little bit because we do have we have a ceiling over where price is. But yeah, I guess that's the issue with these end of day plays, right? Is we see a lot of reshuffling and we often get pretty sporadic moves. So yeah, Loon. I don't know if that goes over what you wanted to see. 'Cause I know you look more on the longer time frames. So you might have been more interested in actually breaking down the Vex, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't see you comment throughout, so I'm not sure if actually if that was your question or not. Yeah, no problem, Boba. Okay, got it, Loon. Wait, so you got burned. Oh, so Friday you might have been playing. Oh, you might have been playing zero DTs on Friday because you were off, I imagine. Got you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, always feel free. Um, you can message me if you want to, like, I don't know, second eyes on whatever trade you took. Just send me the time you took the map, and I can help you out there. But I'm gonna work on trying to post. I'm not good at video editing, so it just takes me a while. But I'm working similar to some of the trade recaps I've done on individuals. I want the next one to be an index recap, so I'm hoping to post at least one or two a week, and hopefully that will help people. Obviously we have the written recaps that John does, but I'm hoping the video format maybe it just makes more sense to some people. So we're we're doing our best to get a bit more like case studies out there. So that should help um, Loon if you're trying to test it out, or for anybody new, this should be a pretty good boost, so they can see more of the different kind of scenarios that we see throughout, right? Because the theory is one thing, but in practice, it's a lot trickier. Yeah, Ramis, no problem. Sumina, yeah, appreciate everyone who came, sat in, and listened in. I do have to hop off. I have a one-on-one after this. But yeah, I should be back Thursday. And I'll do a separate live stream then. Yeah, Quan, thanks to you. Thanks for bringing all those charts. Okay, yeah, and this is gonna be recorded, so I don't know if you guys missed any portion of it. For anybody that joined late, you should be able to go watch the replay on YouTube. Okay, great. Thanks everyone. Have a good night. And yeah, good luck tomorrow. Um, oh, Cam, I just saw this. Yeah, let me look at. I'll look at Goldman Sachs real quick before I turn this off for YouTube. Hopefully you're still there. Uh, oh, interesting. Yeah, so Goldman Sachs. Let me see here. Yeah, it looks pretty strong to 830. So it looks like we're gonna go for this double top. Um, it's a bit hard to see where the floor is. So actually, what I might recommend is just wait for it to happen. If we do push up and then try to play the double top, so you can try to obviously you can try to long it towards that 830 as a target. The issue there is we don't really have a strong floor. So you could do that, Kamen, but I would probably I'd be waiting and seeing if we can get a stronger floor to form, or I just wait for that level to go hit and play the double top. Okay, yeah, hopefully that covers it. Any other questions, feel free to email me, message me on Discord, and I'll get those answered. But yeah, that'll be it for tonight. Yep, Bixby, I saw your message. Appreciate it. I'll look through that after my one-on-one. All right, have a good night, everyone. Bye.